Yo, what is up guys, it Ghost here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about all the details we know about the server browser in Battlefield 6. A lot of people have been asking me on this, like, is there going to be a server browser? Isn't there going to be a server browser? And the answer is sort of. So we'll get into all of that in a minute. As always, if you guys enjoy the Battlefield 6 coverage here on the channel, make sure you're subscribed. There's going to be a lot more to come here in the future. And as always, thank you guys so much for your support. You've been going nuts the past few days and I really appreciate it. So cheers so much for that. Also, quick shout out to Mr. Torbis, who has provided me with this insane round of Battlefield 6 from the Capture event in London. I'm going to link up his channel down below. He's a great creator, so definitely go and check him out. So this whole conversation kicked off over on X from Alexia Christofi. She is one of the producers at DICE. She was actually part of the reveal event, and she says, I'm going to talk about our server browser later today, but first, I want to understand everyone's reasons for wanting a server browser so I can make sure I explain what we're doing effectively. What is it about a server browser that is important to you lot? So I think for me, the reasons for having a server in a Battlefield game are multiple. First of all, it's about the persistence and the community. You know, you can hop in that server, and when you come and log on the next day, that server is still going to be there. There's maybe going to be people who enjoy that particular server, with that particular map rotation, that particular game mode, with the same ping as you, from the same area, etc. And those people are still going to be in there. And just to add on to that, by the way, I would really love to see more community tools added for Battlefield 6, such as platoons, you know, the ability to create emblems, just a few more ways for players to express themselves and really club together and get some interesting teamwork and some squad play going, because at the end of the day, that's what Battlefield is all about, or at least it should be what it's all about. But these days, I feel like everyone's a little bit more lone wolfy because there simply aren't as many friends playing the game together. Now, another major reason for me is I just like to play the map rotation that I want to play. And a great example for Battlefield 6 is that there are only 3 out of 9 maps that have jets in them, so, you know, basically every single vehicle available, and there are only 5 maps that have the attack helicopter. So if I'm not a big infantry player and I only want to play those maps, I want to find or create a server that only plays those 5 maps. And similarly, if you play mostly infantry, you might want to make, you know, infantry only, or you might want to find whatever map is the most meat grindery, like Operation Lockers or Metro, and just have a rotation on that one. And most of the time, I don't want to play these maps with any weird, you know, wacky rules like 1000% extra damage so that I can one-shot people or farm XP. I just want to play like the regular official DICE modes, but I still want to be able to play on the maps that I want. And this was a huge problem with Battlefield 2042 because you would matchmake, at the end of every game you get kicked back into the matchmaker, and then more often than not you get put into the same bloody map again. And a lot of the time it was a map you didn't even want to play, right? So I think that is a problem that is resolved with a server browser and getting into a server that has a steady rotation. Not only that, but it also ensures you don't matchmake into a server that is like half full. You know, sometimes you'll end up with 10 players on your team, 10 on the other team, and the rest of the server are bots. And sometimes those servers end up filling out, but sometimes they don't, and you have to quit out of there and matchmake again. If you can actually see the servers, you can see how many players in there, you can jump in, and likewise, if you've got a few friends and you're an entire squad that want to play together, you can say, okay, this server has like 10 spots free, let's jump into that one because we know we'll all be put together on the same team. And most of the people who answered on this thread, and there was a lot of replies here, kind of reiterated the same sentiments that I have for you here. And Alexia then replied later on in the day, and she says, it feels like the most important things are persistent servers, a sense of community and a way to play together, being able to choose specific maps and modes, being able to filter by ping and server fullness, and support for low population regions. Now, she says there's more to share on this in the future, but she does say, I think our server browser solution answers all these wants. Yes, it's via portal and it shows community experiences, but these can award full XP, will be front and center in our main menu, not hidden, and will allow you to filter and search for specific things you want. Again, more to share on this in the future, but seeing all your replies, I think what we have caters to the majority of cases. We can talk more about it and why it feels like it's not enough at a later date. Like, I would argue to some degree, if it's not enough, it's kind of you know, not too late to change it after the game launches, but it is going to create some negativity. Like, there will be people asking for that in the Steam reviews and whatnot. But it does sound like, from what she says here, it's going to be an improvement over Portal 1.0 from Battlefield 2042, which was kind of hidden. And I think one of the major problems with that system is, first of all, you couldn't matchmake into it. If you go and look at any of the games that had server browsers, I think all the way back as far as Battlefield 4, there was actually matchmaking functionality. The server browser was front and center, and the matchmaking kind of took a back seat. But if you wanted to click on matchmake and say, hey, I want to play Conquest, it would find a server with a spot in it and matchmake you into there. And as time went on, it sort of flipped and became the other way around, where the matchmaking button, like in Battlefield 5, that became front and center. But if you really wanted to find a server and select the one you wanted, you could do that as well. But now in Battlefield 2042 and the like, we see the matchmaking system and the server browser completely separated. So when you click matchmake, you are going into an official DICE experience, but it's not listed in that server browser. So if they were listed there, you could at least go in there and say, okay, here's a round of my favorite map. It's just started. It's got enough players in it. There's a spot there, and I'm going to jump in and play. You don't have to just, like, you know, rely on luck of the draw to get the kind of map that you want to play. Now, she does say it's front and center in the main menu, and I've also heard in other places that some of the more interesting Portal modes that are created, because, you know, the Portal editor looks kind of insane. And just to sort of go off on a slight tangent for a minute here, here is an excerpt from an article about Battlefield 6, and they say internally they had play-tested game modes with custom scripting and AI improvements, so you're able to make your own custom UI and improve how the NPCs behave and perform. So that kind of confirms there is going to be bots in Battlefield 6, at least for Portal. There's a whole host of tweakables and mutators, like the ability to do closed weapons, hardcore mode, and what we're seeing is somebody in the studio create a top-down 2D shooter, or even a horde mode where you purchase guns from an MCOM. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a source for this article. This was just a screenshot somebody posted on Reddit, so if anybody knows what article this is from, please hit me up in the comments and I'll add it to the description of the video. But from what it sounds like, actually, Portal 2.0 may be much more customizable than I first thought, and we may see some crazy game modes coming out of that. And the way DICE speak about it, they're going to be like featuring some of these on the home screen. So you'll no longer have to like go into Portal and then into the browser to find these things. They will kind of be coming up front and center, almost the same way that the weekly game modes from DICE do in Battlefield 2042. So I think the big question for me is like, is the matchmaking system going to be integrated with the server browser? Because a lot of people say, Ghost, like, what is the problem? If there's a server browser there in Portal, you can create your map rotation, right? You can do whatever you want there. But first of all, we have to make sure that they are persistent, because you'll know, like, if you make a server, it's really, really hard to get people playing that server, and they sort of live and die by their persistence and how popular they are. If you've always got players in there, other players will always join back because they can jump into at least like a semi-full round. But if it's an empty server, well, nobody's going to join that, right? So it's kind of like a catch-22. You need players in your server to play, but if there are no players in your server, then nobody wants to bother joining and being the first person. I've even made servers before, and even though I have some influence online and I can maybe put out a post and say, hey guys, like, here's my server, let's go play it, even then, you know, I've had great difficulty getting even like 20 players online at the same time. So I think persistence, first of all, is absolutely key. And second of all, I think it needs to be integrated with the matchmaking system. Like, apparently they're going to have lots of filters that we can choose from, such as, you know, hopefully, like, what map you want to play, what game mode you want to play. And then my hope is that you can just click matchmake and it's going to put you into one of these servers. And that is actually going to help, you know, fill out a lot of those custom experiences, at least like the ones with like regular rule sets. I really would like to see the wacky stuff, like, you know, the hardcore modes, the XP farms, and like whatever people want to make. Like, I understand people want to play the game the way they want to play. If people want to make crazy and interesting experience, that's fine. But I hope they separate it out or make the filters so variable that you can filter out all that stuff. Because what happened in Battlefield 2042 is that you would go in the server browser, and the top 10 servers were those types of experiences, and most people just didn't want to play them. They didn't want to bother scrolling endlessly through there to find a decent server. So what happened then is just people ended up matchmaking. And I do think, especially if they want to capture these 100 million players from other games such as Call of Duty, you know, people from those titles have kind of gotten used to matchmaking, I think, a lot quicker than the Battlefield community have, and so their tendency is going to just be to click matchmake, right? And hopefully that is going to help fill out some of those servers. Now here's a reply on Reddit here from Tigger, aka David Serland, the lead producer for Battlefield 6. And this person says, I'm under the impression that people can freely make vanilla servers quickly and easily. Hopefully that fills the gap of official servers, which I think it can. And he replies and says, yes, they can, and the allowed rule changes to keep servers full XP, which are called verified experiences, is also much more lenient. So from an I want to organize a group and we want to play these 3 maps in this order on Conquest, it's very possible. But again, like, okay, we can create those kind of experiences. Like, I'm aware of that. I understand, like, we're going to be able to make the servers we want to make. The big question on everybody's lips is, like, are the tools going to be there to funnel the community into those servers? Because if they aren't, then it's all for naught. It's just not going to work. Now, another popular poster, BSOD Gaming, chimed in on this, and he says if server browsing and the servers players will browse is going to be entirely reliant on player-made and hosted servers, please segregate servers which run official, custom, even slightly custom and or advanced custom extremely edited settings from one another. My biggest issue with 2042 Portal's browser is that everything is thrown into the same list of servers. Players like myself and those I play with want to be easily able to browse a list of servers that run stock settings, without those servers being buried by a host of crazy custom setting servers. And Tigger just say, it's a proper server browser. It comes with filters to let you do just that. In a not too distant future, we will show how it works. So that sounds good. Like, they're gonna elaborate on this a little bit and really spell out for us, like, the ins and outs of the server browser system. But they've gone out of their way at the same time during the reveal to not really mention the server browser. And that sort of shows to me that they don't want to hype it up too much. Like, they're only answering questions on it because people are asking things about it. If they were putting this front and center in their reveal and saying, guys, we listened, the server browser is coming back, then I wouldn't really have any cause for worry. But the way they talk about it here, I have a feeling that it is going to be like Battlefield 2042, where the matchmaking system and the official servers then that you're playing in will be separate, you know, and most people will just matchmake into a round and not use the server browser at all. So to me, this is kind of like, it's like a half measure. Like, I'll take it, you know. I honestly was not expecting a server browser in Battlefield 6 at all. This has been the trend, you know, the past years. I know we're going away from server browsers. Every game is doing it just as much as having battle passes is the trend, right? Or battle royales are the trend. You can't really stop it. That DICE and EA must, like, have good reasons. They must have data to back up why it's not as good of an idea. Oh, by the way, another good reason for having server browsers, people are worried about skill-based matchmaking. Well, you can pretty much 100% rule out any skill-based matchmaking if you jump into a server manually, right? All that's going to be there is team balancing. Not that I'm saying I think Battlefield 6 is going to have skill-based matchmaking, but some people do have their doubts, they do have their reservations about that, and this is a surefire way to convince them that it 100% doesn't exist. I would really like to hear DICE's input on this. Like, they're asking us why we want a server browser. A lot of people kind of took badly to that and said, surely you know why we want a server browser, and of course I think they do know, but they want to hear the main reasons behind it before they try to communicate to us what solution they have put in the game to meet us somewhere in the middle there. I still feel like if it is going to turn out the way I've described here in this video, it's going to be a bit of a half solution. Again, like, I'll take it. I think it's better, of course, than having no server browser, but I would just be really curious to hear DICE's take on this. Like, what is the data that they have? What is the reason why just not going with the traditional server browser solution is better? Why is matchmaking better? Like, are players, is this like a barrier to entry? You know, are players just, I don't know, like, not as smart anymore? Like, is that really that hard to just, like, go in a server browser, click on ping, find a bunch of servers with the lowest ping, and then find servers with enough players in there and click on the map that you want. I don't know, man. Apparently, they have their reasons for doing that, and I would really appreciate, for one, if they could share some of that reasoning behind it, and why apparently it doesn't seem to be working for Battlefield games these days. As always, guys, I really would like to hear what you have to say about this, so leave me your comments down below. What are some of your main reasons for wanting a server browser in the game? Or maybe do you think, you know, it's a thing of the past, it's a relic, and we just don't need it anymore? Leave those comments as well. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with everything Battlefield. I am going to be streaming the heck out of the beta coming this Thursday on the 7th of August. Oh, on the subject of beta, by the way, almost completely forgot to put this into the video, but there is one more way that you can get access. So as you'll probably know by now, if you signed up for Battlefield Labs before the 31st of July, you will have been sent an email where you will get early access on the 7th and the 8th of August. If you didn't sign up, but you watched one of the creators who was streaming on Twitch, you may have gotten a drop with a code. But there's also a third way. So if you are an EA Play Pro subscriber, you don't need a code. You just log in with the EA account associated with your subscription, and you will have that early access. I think it costs something like $16, $17 a month. I don't have it personally, so I'm not saying you should necessarily do this, because you can just get the open beta on the 9th and the 10th, and then the weekend after that, there's going to be another 4-day open beta where you don't have to get this like special early access. But I'm just saying, if you're somebody who really wants that early access, you could, in theory, subscribe to EA Play Pro for 1 month and get it that way. Again, I'm not necessarily advocating that you do that, but I just do want to put it out there as a potential solution for some people. Preload also goes live today on the 4th of August. If you're watching this video, by the time you watch it, it should already be live from 3 PM UTC in the afternoon. So if you're playing on Steam, if you're playing on EA app, you should now be able to go over and preload the beta so you're all ready for Thursday. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Like I said before, guys, hit the sub button, hit the like, all that stuff. I know you guys always do it, so thank you so much for that. Have a good one, and I'll see you all in the next video.